Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be looking at, I guess, the ways our present selves can help or screw over our future selves.
Yeah.
And we'll be using Hal Hershfield's book, Your Future Self, How to Make Tomorrow, as our guide.
Okay.
So we've got some really interesting excerpts ready to unpack.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds good.
Let's get started.
Okay.
So Hershfield kicks things off with a question that you might not expect. Do we even stay the same person over time?
Right.
And to kind of illustrate this, he shares this story about Pedro Rodrigues Filho,
Okay.
who was a Brazilian serial killer,
Oh, wow.
but after spending decades behind bars, completely turned his life around.
Really?
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
Wow. I'd love to hear more about that. Like, how does that even, how do you even begin to change after doing something like that?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, that's the question, right? How do you
Yeah.
begin to
Right.
quantify that, right?
Right.
After his release, he started a YouTube channel where he shares, like, inspirational messages and stuff.
Huh. Wow. I guess that's one way to try to make amends, I guess. I mean, does that even count as being the same person anymore, though? You know what I mean? If you were capable of such horrific acts before, but now you're all about inspiration and positivity, is that just a persona?
Right. And that's exactly what Hirschfield is getting at. He's like, is it even possible for someone who committed such horrific acts to genuinely change?
Yeah.
And if so, like, does that make them a different person?
Yeah. No, it's like it makes you think about what defines a person, right? Like, is it their actions, their values? Is there some kind of core essence that stays the same even when everything else changes?
Exactly. And
Mhm.
then he takes it even a step further, right?
Yeah.
He talks about um, Jerzy Bilecki and Sala Sobolska, who were
Hmm.
Holocaust survivors, and they reunited after decades of being apart.
Wow.
Their love story speaks to this enduring nature of certain parts of ourselves.
Okay.
Like, it suggests that some parts of who we are remain pretty much the same no matter what we go through.
So it's like these two stories are kind of like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? You've got someone who seems to have completely changed their nature, and then you've got this couple whose love has endured despite incredible hardship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what does that tell us about who we are and how we change over time?
Exactly. So what does science have to say about all of this, right?
Right.
Hirschfield points to this massive study called Project Talent,
Okay.
and they followed personality changes over 5 decades.
Wow, 5 decades. That's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
That's impressive.
It is, yeah. And what they found is that, like, obviously people change, right?
Sure.
But one thing stayed um, relatively constant, and that was people's moral compass.
Interesting. So even if our personalities shift over time, our fundamental sense of right and wrong tends to stay pretty stable.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is where Hirschfield introduces this concept of the moral self.
The moral self. I like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of fascinating because he suggests that these fundamental moral traits, these are kind of like the threads that connect us to our older selves.
Okay. I see where he's going with this. It's like our values become this like core foundation for our identity.
Right.
They shape how we see ourselves and even how we see other people over time, regardless of, other changes that might happen along the way.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and he actually gives this example of this artist, right?
Okay.
And she's saying, like, her partner might not even recognize her as the same person if she, like, lost her artistic talent, right?
Sure, I guess if that was such a core part of who she was.
Yeah, but when she's asked about what would make her partner feel like a different person, the artist focuses on, like, a shift in moral character.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about the skills or talents, it's really about those underlying values. It's
Exactly.
like if someone's moral compass goes haywire, that's when we really start to question who they are.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's not just about, like, skills or abilities. It's about our core values and how they remain consistent even as we, continue to evolve.
Right.
So it begs the question for, our listeners out there. What traits do you believe are essential for someone to stay, quote unquote, you as time goes on?
Yeah, that's a good question to think about. It really makes you examine what you hold most dear, what you believe defines a person, and how much change you think is possible while still retaining that core identity.
Right. And Hirschfield, he doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He dives into another pretty interesting question. Is future me really me?
I like where this is going.
Yeah. And He actually uses this like vampire analogy to explain
A
this.
vampire analogy. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, it's a clever way to kind of illustrate the point, right?
Right.
He compares becoming a vampire, like which is like, this irreversible decision with consequences you can't foresee, right?
Right.
He compares that to becoming a parent.
Okay. I see the parallel.
Yeah, because both transform us in ways that we can't fully anticipate, right?
Right. Like the vampire you might have totally different priorities and desires than the pre-vampire you, just like a parent's life changes dramatically after having kids.
Exactly. And you know what it's like? It's like that feeling when you look back at like old pictures of yourself and you're like, who is that person?
Oh, yeah, totally. You're like, what was I thinking with that haircut?
Exactly. Or that outfit.
Exactly. But it's still you, right? You've just changed and grown so much since then.
Exactly.
So I guess that's what he's getting at with the vampire analogy. It's like becoming a parent is like this transformative experience that changes you in ways you can't even imagine beforehand.
Right. And he actually like emphasizes this idea of this inherent unknowability of our future selves with another analogy.
Okay, lay it on me.
He talks about the Blue Lagoon in Iceland.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. Isn't it that like geothermal spa with the milky blue water?
Yeah. And it looks totally natural,
Yeah,
right?
it's supposed to be gorgeous.
But it's actually like man-made.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, so it's this illusion of like natural beauty, but it's actually been carefully constructed.
Exactly. And that's kind of like our perception of our future selves, right?
Yeah.
We kind of assume this seamless progression from who we are now to who we'll become, but it's probably a lot more complex than that.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. It's like we see this picture of our future selves in our minds, but it might not be an accurate representation of who we'll actually become.
Yeah.
Kind of like how the Blue Lagoon looks totally natural, but it's actually the result of human intervention.
Exactly.
I like that.
And there's actually research that kind of backs this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In one study, people were asked to describe meals, right?
Okay, meals.
Yeah. And when they were talking about what they were currently eating, they used like a first-person perspective, like, I'm eating this, right?
Right.
But when describing a meal in the distant future, they shifted to third person, like almost as if talking about somebody else.
Huh. That is interesting. So it's like our future selves almost feel like strangers to us.
Yeah, that's exactly what the research suggests.
Makes you wonder if that's why we sometimes make choices that our future selves wouldn't be too happy about.
Totally.
Like maybe if we felt more connected to our future selves, we'd make different decisions in the present.
Right. Like we wouldn't eat that extra slice of pizza if we knew our future self was going to have to deal with the consequences
Exactly.
or, blow all our money on, I don't know, lottery tickets.
Yeah. Yeah.
When our future self is like going to be broke.
Exactly. I mean, it's almost like we're not fully prioritizing their well-being because we don't entirely identify with them.
Right.
It's a weird disconnect, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And actually there's this brain scan study
Okay.
that actually shows that that area of the brain that lights up when you're thinking about yourself shows similar activity when you're thinking about your future self
Hmm.
and another person.
Wow, really? So our brains don't really distinguish between our future selves and other people?
Well, that's what this particular study suggests.
That's wild. So it's like on a neurological level, we're treating our future selves like someone else entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes you think, right?
It really does. So if we perceive our future selves as separate entities, does that explain why we sometimes sabotage them with our present day actions?
That's a really great question and definitely something to think about. And you know what? We're going to explore that and more
Okay.
as we continue our deep dive into Hershfield's book.
Awesome.
And we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back, and let's get back into it.
Okay.
So now that we've kind of laid the foundation, right, about this disconnect between present and future selves,
Right.
let's kind of look into like how people try to bridge that gap, right?
Yeah.
And Hershfield starts with a story that's, it's kind of funny, but it's also thought-provoking, right?
Right.
Very frankly, he wanted to be revived.
Revived,
Yeah.
like brought back to life.
Yeah,
Okay.
like a century later.
A century later. Wow, that's ambitious.
Yeah, and get this,
Okay.
in a cask of Madeira wine.
Whoa, hold on. In a cask of Madeira wine, like pickled.
Yeah, like, I know, it sounds like straight out of a sci-fi novel, right?
It does. It's like a very boozy version of cryogenics or something.
Yeah, totally. But it like, it highlights this, like, this really deep-seated desire right,
Right.
that we have, like, as humans, to connect with a future version of ourselves,
Okay.
even if it means, like, going to these kind of crazy lengths.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like we have this curiosity, this fascination with who we'll become, and we want to find ways to like reach out to that future self, even if it seems impossible.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if Ben Franklin was around today, do you think he'd be like signing up for cryogenic freezing?
You know, that's actually the next thing that that Hershfield talks about.
Oh,
Yeah, the whole world of cryonics,
okay.
and specifically this facility called Alcor.
Alcor.
Yeah, where people actually pay.
I mean, it sounds expensive.
Oh, it is over $200,000
Whoa.
to have their either their bodies or just their brains.
Just their brains.
Yeah.
Wow. So like head in a jar kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's wild.
Yeah, preserved after they die.
Okay, but why? Like what's the thinking behind that?
So the idea is that, like, technology, right, will eventually be able to revive them.
Oh, okay. So it's like they're banking on the future of science to like bring them back.
Yeah, give them a second shot at life.
I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a movie.
Yeah, it really does.
But I guess the motivations behind it are pretty real, right? Like this desire for immortality or at least like a chance to experience more life than we're allotted.
Yeah, it's like taking this, like, ultimate leap of faith, right? Betting on the possibility of a future that, like, we can't even really comprehend.
Yeah, and hoping that when you wake up, you're not just a brain in a jar in some dystopian future.
Right. Exactly.
So has anyone actually been, revived from this cryogenic freezing?
Well, not yet. I mean, the technology isn't there.
Right.
But Hershfield, he shares this really, it's a heartbreaking story, actually,
Okay.
about a 2-year-old patient.
2 years old.
Yeah, whose parents chose this cryopreservation after she lost her battle with brain cancer.
Oh man, that's really tough.
Yeah, it really underscores, like, the powerful emotions that are driving this, like, this pursuit of, a future existence.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what those parents must have been going through. It's like clinging to any shred of hope, even if it means putting their faith in something that's, still very much in the realm of science fiction.
Exactly.
So for those of us who aren't, ready to sign up for a frozen nap,
Right.
what are some other ways to connect with our future selves?
Well, Hershfield, he offers a few more, I guess you could call them grounded approaches.
Okay, that sounds more my speed.
Yeah, he talks about writing letters to your future self.
Letters, like actually writing them down.
Yeah.
That's kind of old school, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, it is. It's like sending a message across time, right?
Yeah, like a time capsule of your thoughts
Yeah,
and feelings
right.
and hopes and dreams for the future.
Right. He actually tells a story about a man named Ryan
Okay.
and his father, Arn.
Hey.
And Arn was diagnosed with ALS,
Oh, wow.
and he started writing these letters to his family
Okay.
to be delivered, like, at different milestones, right?
So like even after he was gone, he was still able to be present in their lives in a way.
Exactly.
That's really beautiful, actually.
Eh,
It's like a way to offer guidance and support even after you're physically gone.
Yeah, it speaks to this enduring power of connection, right?
Yeah.
And the impact that
Yeah.
we can have on our future selves and loved ones.
I like that.
And yeah, this isn't just like a personal thing either, right?
Oh, really?
Stanford Healthcare, they actually use a similar letter writing approach
Mhm.
to help patients make their end of life wishes clear.
Oh, wow. So it's like giving people a voice even when they might not be able to speak for themselves in the future.
Yeah. So it's like these letters, they become this, like, this bridge, right,
Right.
between our present and future selves.
Okay.
They allow us to reflect, to set goals, and to kind of create a sense of continuity.
I could see how that would be really powerful.
Yeah, and Hershfield also, he warns us about the common pitfalls,
Okay.
right?
So like the things that can trip us up when it comes to our relationship with our future selves.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have our fair share of those.
Yeah. He actually calls them our time traveling mistakes.
Time traveling mistakes. I like that. It's like we're messing up our own timelines.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so what are some of these time traveling mistakes? Give me an example.
Okay, so he starts with this this really relatable analogy, right? He calls it missing the flight.
Missing the flight. Okay. I'm intrigued. What does that mean?
It's this tendency, right, that we
Yeah.
have to get, like, so caught up in the present
Right.
that we kind of neglect the future.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, me too. It's like, putting things off until tomorrow or choosing instant gratification
Yeah.
over like long-term benefit.
Oh yeah, the classic I'll start my diet tomorrow syndrome or,
Yeah.
I'll start saving money next month. It's always easier to push those things off.
Yeah, and Hershfield, he actually illustrates this with those classic lottery scenarios.
Lottery scenario.
Yeah,
Okay.
where people often opt for like less money now
Okay.
instead of waiting for the full amount later.
Oh yeah, like the instant gratification versus the delayed reward.
Yeah, it's like a testament to how we prioritize those instant rewards
Right.
over future gains.
Makes sense. I mean, it's hard to resist the allure of having something right now, even if it means getting less in the long run.
Exactly. It's like we apply this discount rate to future rewards.
A discount rate. So, like, we subconsciously devalue them compared to what we can get right this second.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And this plays out in all sorts of ways, like our spending habits, our health choices.
Yeah, like those studies where people say they want to eat healthy in the future, but then, they reach for the donuts when they're right in front of them. It's like
Nice.
our present selves are constantly sabotaging our future selves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we're our own worst enemy sometimes.
Totally. And it's not just about food, right? Think about, like, how tempting it can be to overspend in a place like Vegas.
Oh,
The allure of the casinos, the shows, the whole atmosphere.
right.
It's like designed to make you forget about your responsibilities and just live in the moment.
Yeah, and any thought of like future financial consequences just kind of flies right out the window.
Exactly. It's prime example of how easily we fall prey to the, what was it, the yes damn effect.
Yeah, the tendency to overcommit to future plans, right?
Yeah.
In the heat of the moment.
Right. And then our future selves are stuck dealing with the consequences.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
we have this abundance of perceived time in the future, so we say yes to everything,
Right.
and then we end up overwhelmed and overbooked.
Right.
We fail to recognize that our future time is just as valuable as our present time, maybe even more so.
Right, because like if we screw up now, the future's going to be messed up.
Exactly. And it all ties back to this idea that we often treat our future selves as separate entities. Like we
Right.
don't fully grasp that the choices we make today directly impact the reality that our future selves will experience.
Exactly.
It's a tough realization, but I think it's an important one.
It is. So I guess the question then becomes
Yeah.
like, if we're making all these time traveling mistakes,
Right.
are there ways to like course correct?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah. Like how can we start making choices that align with both like our present well-being and also our future well-being?
Right, because it's not about denying ourselves all present pleasures, but finding a way to balance those with our long-term goals.
Exactly. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about in the next segment.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Hershfield, he offers a whole bunch of strategies
Right.
for strengthening that connection with our future selves
Okay.
and making decisions that benefit both versions of us.
Sounds good to me.
All right, we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
All right, we're back.
Okay.
Ready to dive into some solutions, right?
Yeah, let's get practical.
So we've talked about all the mistakes we make,
Right.
but now let's kind of focus on what we can actually do
Right.
to bridge this gap between our present and future selves.
Yeah, because it's great to know what we're doing wrong,
Yeah.
but it's even better to know how to fix it.
Exactly. And Hershfield offers like some really compelling ideas.
Okay.
And one that really stood out to me was this concept of drawing our future selves closer. Drawing our future selves closer. Okay, what does that even mean?
So it's about making that future version of ourselves
Okay.
feel more real, more relatable,
Yeah,
right?
so it's like instead of seeing our future selves as some distant abstract concept,
Yeah.
we need to find ways to make them feel more tangible, more like a real person.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? How do we make our future selves feel closer?
Well, he actually suggests using virtual reality.
Virtual reality, really?
Yeah, like to help people actually connect with their like aged selves.
Wow. So it's like you could put on a VR headset and actually see yourself as an 80-year-old.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah.
I mean, would people even want to do that? Like seeing yourself all wrinkled and gray, wouldn't that be kind of depressing?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But he talks about how Jane Fonda, she actually had a really positive reaction.
Jane Fonda. Wow, I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah.
So like seeing herself as an older woman actually had a positive impact on her.
Yeah, and it actually connects back to some previous research
Right.
that showed that seeing your older self can actually promote like more future-oriented decisions.
Huh, that's interesting. So it's like by literally confronting our future selves, we're more likely to make choices that benefit them.
Right. But Hershfield also emphasizes the power of something much simpler, right?
Okay.
Dear future self letters.
Oh yeah, we talked about that
Yeah,
earlier
we did.
with the story about Arn and his family.
Yeah, writing letters to and from your future self.
Right.
It can be like a super powerful tool, right?
Yeah,
For self-reflection, for goal setting.
makes sense. It's like having a conversation with yourself across time.
Exactly. Think about it like if you could receive a letter from your future self right now,
Okay.
what would it say? Like, would it be full of pride?
Or would it be like a giant I told you so from my future self about all the bad decisions I've made?
Right, exactly. And it's that kind of thought-provoking exercise that can help us make like more conscious choices.
Yeah, like if I know my future self is going to be reading this letter, I might think twice about staying up all night binge watching TV.
Right, exactly. And Hershfield, he tells a story about a novelist
Okay.
who's been writing letters to her future self every decade.
Every decade. Wow, that's commitment.
I know.
She must have some really interesting insights into how she's changed and grown over time.
Yeah, for the past 30 years.
Wow.
It's like she's creating like a timeline of her own personal growth and evolution.
I love that.
And there's actually, their websites like Future Me, where people can like actually send letters to their future selves.
Oh, cool. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a real
Wow.
testament to the power of this practice.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
once we've made that connection with our future selves, right?
Right.
The next step is figuring out like how to actually stay the course.
Yeah, because it's one thing to dream about our future selves and set goals, but it's another thing entirely to actually stick to those goals and make them a reality.
Exactly. How do we actually stick to those goals and commitments that we've made?
Right, because life gets in the way, temptations pop up, and sometimes it's just easier to give in than to stay disciplined.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we fight that?
Well, Hershfield, he explores several different strategies
Okay.
for doing just that.
Okay, I'm listening.
And he starts with a pretty extreme example, actually.
Okay, hit me with it.
So there's this doctor, right?
Yeah.
And he's struggling with alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
And he used this medication called antabuse.
Antabuse. I've heard of that. Isn't that the one that makes you really sick if you drink alcohol while you're taking it?
Yeah, that's the one.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
It is. It is. It's definitely like a drastic approach, right?
Yeah, not for the faint of heart.
But it kind of speaks to the lengths that some people need to go to kind of like overcome these impulses.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like creating this physical barrier between yourself and the temptation.
Exactly.
So if you know that even a sip of alcohol is going to make you violently ill, you're less likely to give in to the craving.
Right. But then, he kind of transitions to some less intense methods.
Okay, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. So he talks about his friend Craig, who took photos of all of his meals.
All of his meals, like every single thing he ate.
Yeah, as part of like a weight loss plan.
Huh. Okay, so it's like a visual record of his progress and also a way to hold himself accountable.
Exactly. It's a simple act of accountability, right?
Yeah.
That helped him stay focused.
It's like when you know you have to take a picture of your food before you eat it, you might think twice about reaching for that second helping of dessert.
Right. Exactly.
Because, it's going to be documented for posterity.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And there are, other ways to kind of build in accountability.
Okay.
Think about like the Save More Tomorrow plan.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Isn't that the one where it automatically increases your retirement contributions over time?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so you don't even have to think about it. It just happens automatically.
Exactly. It's like this classic nudge, right?
Oh,
that
yeah.
that capitalizes on our tendency to just like stick with the default option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because let's be honest, most of us are creatures of habit.
Right.
And if the default is to save more, then we're more likely to do it.
Exactly. It takes that decision making kind of out of the equation.
Right.
Makes it easier to save for the future.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And Hershfield, he actually emphasizes the importance of urgency.
Agency.
Yeah, and accountability
Okay.
when it comes to making these commitments actually work.
So, like, we need to feel like it's important to act now and that we're answerable to someone for our choices.
Yeah, like we're more likely to follow through if there's this sense of immediacy
Right.
and if we feel accountable, right?
Right. Even if that someone is our future selves.
Right. Exactly. He also talks about taking away options.
Taking away options. Okay, I'm curious about this one.
Yeah, like using a kitchen safe, right?
A kitchen safe.
Yeah, to like lock away those tempting snacks.
Oh, I've seen those. It's like a little container with a timer on it, right?
Yeah,
And you can't open it until the timer goes off, no matter how much you want to.
exactly.
So it's like you're removing the possibility of giving in to those impulsive urges.
Yeah, it's a really powerful strategy if you struggle with self-control.
Yeah, especially for things like snacking, where it's so easy to just mindlessly munch away.
Right. Or like, even for more serious things like medication control.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you have a tendency to take too much medication or take it at the wrong times, having a locked container could be really helpful.
Exactly. And he even mentions these seed-locked savings accounts that they use in the Philippines.
Seed lock savings accounts. What are those?
There's basically like a savings account that you can't access for a certain period of time.
Oh, so it's like forcing yourself to save by making it impossible to withdraw the money.
Exactly.
That's kind of brilliant,
Yeah.
actually.
And it actually helped people like significantly increase their savings.
No, so sometimes the best way to save for the future is to make it literally impossible to touch the money in the present.
Pretty much.
Yeah, interesting. It's amazing how these like simple constraints can have such a big impact.
It really is.
Yeah.
But sometimes
Yeah.
even with the best of intentions,
Right.
we still struggle, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like we know what we should be doing,
Right.
but actually doing it and making those present day sacrifices.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is. So how do we make the present like a little bit easier
Yeah.
while still working towards those future goals?
Right. Because it's all about balance, isn't it? Like, we can't just completely ignore our present selves in favor of our future selves.
Mm,
But we also can't just live for the moment and forget about the consequences down the road.
exactly. And this is where like Hershfield's insights about like finding joy in the present come in.
Okay, finding joy in the present. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. And he actually starts with this joke.
A joke.
Yeah, by the comedian Mitch Hedberg.
Mitch Hedberg. Oh, I love Mitch Hedberg. Okay, what's the joke?
So he wishes that healthy food
Okay.
could magically cover for like junk food in our stomachs.
Haha. Yeah, I get it. Like, you could eat all the pizza and ice cream you want, but your stomach would be like, nah, we're going to pretend you just ate a salad.
Right, exactly. And it kind of highlights this tension, right?
Right.
Between what we crave in the moment
Yeah, that instant gratification.
and what we know is best for us, in the long run.
Right. Those long-term goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all have those moments where we just wish we could like indulge without any consequences.
Yeah. Oh, totally. If only we could eat all the cake and still fit into our jeans.
Right, exactly.
But Hershfield suggests there are ways to like navigate this tension
Yeah.
without feeling deprived.
Right. He actually introduces this concept of um, taking the good with the bad.
Taking the good with the bad. Okay, explain that one to me.
Yeah, and he uses this example of a Stanford support group for women with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And this group, they help the participants like actually find like moments of joy and connection,
Okay.
even in the midst of, their illness.
Wow, that's really powerful. So it's like finding those silver linings even when things are really tough.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that happiness isn't something that only exists in the absence of hardship.
Right.
It's about embracing the full spectrum of human experience.
I like that. It's like acknowledging that life is full of ups and downs,
Right.
and that it's okay to feel both joy and sorrow, sometimes even at the same time.
Exactly. And he shares this really touching story about an opera-loving patient
Okay.
who decided to, quote unquote, bring her cancer to the show.
Bring her cancer to the show. I've never heard that expression before,
Yeah.
but I kind of like it.
Yeah. And it kind of emphasizes this idea that like joy and sorrow, hope and fear, they can all kind of coexist within us, right?
Right. It's not about pretending that the bad stuff isn't happening. It's
Right.
about finding those moments of beauty and meaning, even when we're facing challenges.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
So it's not about denying our present desires.
Right. Yeah.
It's about finding ways to balance them
Yeah.
with those long-term goals.
Makes sense. So, any practical tips on how to actually do that?
Yeah, Hershfield, he suggests a strategy called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's the idea of like pairing something that you enjoy
Okay.
with a task that you would rather avoid.
Oh, okay. So it's like using something pleasurable to motivate yourself to do something you don't enjoy. Okay, I can see how that would work.
Yeah, he uses this example of a behavioral scientist who only allows herself um, to listen to like thrilling audiobooks
Okay.
while she's exercising.
Oh, I like that. So it's like making the workout more enjoyable by associating it with something she really enjoys.
Exactly. And there's even some research on pairing, like toothbrushing.
Toothbrushing. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
with uh with engaging content.
So it's like watching a funny video while you brush your teeth.
Yeah, to like make it more enjoyable.
I can get behind that. Anything to make those mundane tasks a little more fun.
Exactly. It's all about finding these creative ways, right?
Right.
To make those necessary but kind of mundane activities more appealing.
Yeah, it's like tricking your brain into associating something positive with something you might otherwise dread.
Right, exactly.
I like it.
And then there's this concept of um, making the big small.
Making the big small. Okay, I'm not sure I follow.
So he uses this example of a mattress company, right?
Okay, a mattress.
Yeah, that advertises the cost per night
Okay.
instead of the total price.
Oh, I've seen those ads. Like, it's only $2 a night to sleep on this luxurious mattress.
Yeah, exactly. Makes the purchase like feel less daunting, right?
Right, because $2 a night sounds a lot more manageable than like $1,000 for a new mattress.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like reframing the way we think about the cost to make it seem less overwhelming. I can
Exactly.
see how that would be effective.
And it's a good reminder that we don't need to make like these drastic changes all at once.
Right, small steps can lead to big changes.
Exactly. Small, consistent actions can add up.
Yeah, like the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then he talks about like the Acorn savings plan.
Acorns.
Yeah, that encourages people to like invest like tiny amounts of money
Okay.
regularly.
So it's like rounding up your purchases to the nearest dollar and investing the difference.
Yeah, pretty much. It's about making those micro investments
Right.
in your future self.
Yeah, I like that. It's a way to start building those positive habits without feeling like you have to make big sacrifices.
Exactly. It's a great way to start
Yeah,
without feeling overwhelmed.
makes sense.
But it's also important to remember, right,
Okay.
that sometimes the best thing for our future selves
Yeah.
is to just like embrace joy.
Embrace joy.
Yeah.
Okay, I can definitely get on board with that.
Yeah, in the present moment.
Right, like sometimes you just gotta live a little.
Exactly. Even if it doesn't seem like, productive or goal oriented.
It's not always about being practical and responsible.
Right.
Sometimes it's about doing things that just make you happy.
Exactly. And he actually tells a story about a financial planner.
Okay, a financial planner.
Yeah, who was debating whether or not to splurge on this sea kayaking trip.
Okay,
And he ultimately decided to just go for it.
good for him.
And it ended up being this like deeply meaningful experience for him.
That's awesome. So even financial planners need to take a break from planning and just enjoy life sometimes.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder for all of us, really.
Yeah, and he actually ends the book
Yeah.
with this really charming anecdote
Okay.
about finding a chicken in the road.
A chicken in the road.
Yeah, while walking his son to preschool.
Ah, what are the chances?
I know, right?
Sounds like something out of a cartoon.
Yeah, but it's this beautiful reminder, right?
Right.
That joy can be found in the most like unexpected places.
Yeah, even in the midst of the ordinary, everyday stuff. Like
Exactly.
those little moments that catch you off guard and make you smile.
Right, exactly. And it's a fitting end
Yeah.
to this exploration of our complex relationship with our future selves, right?
Right? Absolutely.
It's about finding that delicate balance between planning for the future
Yeah.
and savoring the present.
It's like a constant dance between those two things. Finding a way to honor both our present needs and our future aspirations.
Exactly. It's been such an insightful deep dive.
It really has.
We've covered so much ground today.
Yeah,
From the science, right,
Yeah.
to the practical strategies.
Yeah, and everything in between.
For making choices that benefit both versions of ourselves, the present and the future.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully it's giving you some food for thought.
Yeah, some things to ponder.
Maybe even inspired you to make a small change today.
Yeah, even a tiny step in the right direction can make a big difference over time.
Exactly.
It's been great discussing this with you.
Thanks for joining us
Yeah, thanks for having me.
on this deep dive into your future self.
It's been a fascinating journey.
And we hope you'll tune in next time for another exploration of of the human experience.
Exactly.
Until then, keep those future selves in mind.